This is the week 2 discussion group for the June 2017 ambulance exercise. It is the 14th of June 2017. Welcome to all. I would like to ask you to type into the chat window the city and country that you are connecting from, as well as the ambulance organization that that you are affiliated with. Let's see. So yes, I am connecting from Geneva. All right, and Brad is from the Colorado Springs Fire Department in Colorado, Jerusalem from MDA, Hadir from Cairo, Egypt, Peter from Kenya, Lily from Kent, England, Salah from Azerbaijan, John from the USA Lawrence General Hospital, Hannah from Berlin. That's great. Wow. All right, so you'll see the presentation is very short, and the main feast will be your presentations and the discussions around that. As you know, this is a project this is part of the Healthcare in Danger project, led by Norwegian Red Cross and the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, supported by the Geneva Learning Foundation. Now, this is a very structured exercise. There are specific tasks and deliverables for each week. And we are now in week 2, and everyone is coming up against the first big deliverable, which is your creator project. So by Friday, Friday close of at the end of the day. So the exact time depends on where you are, but it's basically midnight in Geneva. You need to submit your main project. If you see any challenges with respect to that, let us know. No extensions will be granted for a very simple reason, and I want to emphasize this, is that this course is about peer sharing and exchange, and what we'll be doing in week 3 will make your colleagues dependent on you for your feedback, and you will be dependent on them for theirs. So therefore, it would not be fair if one person has done their job and the other has not. Therefore, only the people who submit a project will be invited to peer review in week 3. Now, we do have many other opportunities outside of this exercise for people who do not complete their draft project. But really, I would like to encourage you to go the extra mile, set aside some time. And to that end, you will find in the materials a catch-up guide. So this is a tool that you can use. It's 2 pages, and it really is as simple as following the instructions it contains in order to really zero in on just the things you need to do to actually get your project done on time. So I've shared that in the chat window, the link to that, and I'm also sharing here the actual assignment, because some people are still confused about what that is, or at least a few of you are. Now, you saw the week 1 checklist had many items on it. Week 2 is very simple. You only have 1 task to complete, and that's to finish your creator project, to finish a draft. Keep in mind that in week 4 you'll be getting your draft back, but this time you'll be getting the feedback, the comments and insights and suggestions and advice from your colleagues, and will then be revising your project at that point. But this week, there's really only one big thing you need to do, which is to complete that creator project. You can, of course, if you've done that, you learned in week 1 to use the community through the activity that we suggested. And this is not a course where you have to wait until the teacher tells you to do this or that. This is a course where you are now connected to over 150 colleagues from all over the world. The community is yours. Yes. So if you are up to date with your creator project and it's ready for submission, then you're encouraged to participate and to make use of the community in whatever way you see fit. So as of yesterday, these were the individuals who have creator projects in progress. So this may have changed, and some of you may be working outside of Creator. That is fine, yes, but this is just a check-in. If you do not see your name on this list, let us know. Yes, you can send a chat to the organizers privately. Just let us know, confirm how you're doing. If you need any help, yes, we'll be staying at the half-hour mark. Starting at the half-hour mark, we'll be I'll be showing you, really walking you step by step through the catch-up guide, and then showing you really some shortcuts to try to get you to finish the assignment. Now, many of you in your creator projects that I've been looking at have have identified and described the security risk, have sort of summarized how you're currently preparing and responding to that risk. And part 3 is, of course, is the main part of your project, and this is what some of you are still working on. So that's fine. We'll be, in fact, focusing the presentations on part 3 today. Now, how to submit. So this is done from Creator, and I just want to highlight a couple of things. Some of you have been pushing the buttons we told you not to push, or where you were instructed not to push. You may have generated multiple versions of your Creator project. If so, before you submit, you want to make sure that the current version is highlighted in blue. Otherwise, you may submit some prior work that is not the final version. This does not happen if you followed instructions, but not everyone does. The second thing is, if you haven't set a title, so if your work still says untitled in Creator, then we want to make sure that you do set a title. And once you have verified these 2 items, then you are ready to submit for review. So there is the button at the bottom of the Creator window, which is the one to push. So you can also, up until the deadline, so up until Friday, you can also unsubmit. However, once you have pushed that submit button and the deadline goes by, you will no longer be able to unsubmit. You will be able to keep changing and amending your work, but your reviewers will not, who receive your draft project, will not see any changes you made. They will see only the version that you have actually submitted for review. So that's a kind of heads up for what's coming up. So that's it for the presentation. Could somebody tell Ade in the chat to connect that he needs to connect his his audio, please? And again, yes. Yeah, so this, okay, Hannah, thanks. Yeah, so he's raising his hand. All right, so this is, of course, you should recognize this. This is part 3 of the assignment. So what we're going to do is call for volunteers. In the first week, we posted a message, just so you know, every discussion group, this is how it's going to work. We'll be sharing, calling for people to make short presentations, in this case, 3 minutes, to answer, to address a specific part of the work, or to next week we'll actually be discussing what people are learning from peer review. So please use the hand raise feature, so a little hand to raise your hand if you're ready to, if you feel ready to make a presentation. Otherwise, knowing where, having, I would be looking at the folks who have made significant progress in Creator and just calling on you. So any volunteers? All right, okay. So this session is only 30 minutes long, and if you were here last week, you know this is how it works. So just be ready to be called on. And Romeo, how are you this evening? Yeah, Romeo, are you able to unmute your microphone? Okay, Romeo does not seem to be ready there. Let's yeah. Okay, so let me mute Romeo, and let's go to John Lovett. John, how are you? This and I don't know if it is evening for you. Seems like you
good. How are you?
All right.
No,
great.
I just shut that off. Sorry.
All right. Remind us where you're connecting from, please.
I'm connecting from the USA in Lawrence, Massachusetts. We're about 20 minutes north of Boston.
Okay. All right. So yeah, would you be okay with me sharing your Creator projects?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So then let me switch to the. And then really, I'm okay. So I see that right now you have fairly well developed part one, and then parts two and three. Yes, you have you're still working on. So I'm going to start the timer, and I'd like you to tell us, where are you with respect to part three? So let me pull up the. Yeah, let me see if I can. Yeah. Um, Ask you to, if you can briefly tell us what you've got for parts one and two, and then really focus your presentation to share with us what you've got for what you're thinking of developing for part three. Um, and again, either you already have a good practice or local solution in use, then you want us really, deep dive into it and look at, analyze it. And if not, then you want to propose one. So yeah, does that sound, do you feel ready to?
Yeah, I can talk about that.
Okay. All right, so I'll start the timer. If the timer gets in the way on the screen, just click on it with your mouse and you'll be able to move it out of the way. The floor is yours, John.
Okay, so in parts one or two, what I identified was we have a change in presence in our city, and that we have a much more highly organized gang that has taken roots in our city. And over the past 5 months, we've had a significant increase in gang violence, and specifically shootings and stabbings in our city. Currently, right now, we are up to more than 30 reported shootings and stabbings within the last month and a half. So I've identified the gang that is most associated with this. And the good practice, I'll get to the good practices part. From that, right now, what we do is when we go to shootings and stabbings or any violent nature calls, we do attempt to stage and wait for PD. The issues that we have that have been arising is that we only cover, it's a 3 square mile city that contains just over 120,000 people, and I cover it with 8 trucks. So at any one time, I typically have a truck very close to where the incidents are taking place. And we are finding ourselves arriving first more and more often, and either with or prior to the police getting there. The good things that crews are doing is that when they do arrive, and if there are still any hostilities present or large groups of people, is they back away from the scene and we wait for the police to get there, which with our city being as small as it is, you're sometimes talking less than a minute, sometimes maybe a little more. So what we're trying to strengthen now is that as recently as this weekend, we had an involved shooting where over 75 rounds were discharged in just under a 2-minute time period, and this incident occurred a block and a half from where our main base is located. So we are now trying to work with both local, state, and federal authorities to beef up our practices and not necessarily responding right away based on the initial data, but to stage 1 to 2 blocks away from it and wait for the PD to radio us to clear the scenes, which they're not used to doing. They generally know that we're arriving and aren't used to, calling their dispatchers and saying, hey, let the ambulance come in. So that's what we're gearing towards right now, as well as we're looking for federal grants to outfit our crews with body armor. Currently, right now, only a few of us do have body armor, and it's based on that I get deployed with our local tactical teams and federal agents coming into the city to do their raids as well. And so that's where I am right now, and I have some of this written up, but I write it up in Word before I upload it to this because I discovered the previous time that this doesn't have very good features for correcting your spelling mistakes and your punctuations. So that's where I am right now if anybody wants to have any questions, and I see I have 10 seconds left.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. Yeah. All right. Questions, comments for John, and with a focus in part 3. So Meyer, I see you've raised your hand, so let me unmute you. Yeah, go ahead, please.
John, thank you very much for your presentation. In relation to the body armor, do you use it as it's individual, or do you just keep it in your truck? By us, we keep. I'm in Israel, and obviously we have the use of body armor a lot, and we keep it in the ambulance, and whoever's at the time on shift uses it's just like we have a defibrillator, we also have body armor.
Yeah, so right now we don't have any real official policies on body armor because it is still very new to us. There are a number of us that have our own body armor. So what I do right now is within the last month, I've actually left my body armor on the supervisor vehicle that I will use, because the fortunate part is I'm one of the rather larger shift commanders when I'm out there, so my body armor in general fits most of my shift commanders as well. And the other guys do the same thing within their units. They'll share their body armor with coworkers as well.
Right.
Right. Great. Thanks, thanks, John and Meyer. All right. Any other questions or comments about John's? Yeah, and how are you doing? You feel comfortable knowing that you'll finish by Friday, John? How is that going?
Yeah,
Sounds like
I'll have.
things.
I plan on having almost everything submitted tomorrow night. I'm finishing up and putting the other touches on the other two parts. Right now is actually working on it before I sign into this as well.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you. So that's one presentation. Let's let's have another volunteer. Let's say a designated volunteer. So we tried Romeo. Romeo's having problems with his audio. Let's see if we can hear from. So let me just. All right, let's see if we can try, let's unmute Wael. Wael, can you unmute yourself and are you able to hear me? And if so, can you unmute yourself? We'd love to hear from you. And again, if you'd like to volunteer, please just say so in the chat or use the little raise hand feature. But Wael, we'd love to hear how your project is going. I've looked at your creator project, but would love to hear what you haven't necessarily been able to put in there yet. All right. Okay, Wael is not responding. So let's go to Majid. Majid, how are you doing? And where are you connecting from? You'll need to unmute yourself. I've unmuted your microphone. Okay, Majid is not responding either. So I don't know if that's it's a scary prospect to be called on. Okay, well, it says I can't speak English very well. Okay, that's we still okay. That's understandable. That makes presenting a bit challenging. So let's try. Lily, how are you doing this evening for me in Geneva? Would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I am.
All right.
Hello?
Yes. So Lily, would you be okay with sharing your creator project?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So let's let me share. Let me share the screen. And okay, so you've got extremely well developed project. It's obvious that you have been tackling each of the questions from the assignment, and I think this may be a good way for some of you to to tackle it. Is just pull out all of the questions and make sure you've answered them all. You've got a part, fairly. You've got several paragraphs for part 2, and then part 3 as well. So let me. I think by now you'll know how this works. So let me start the timer, and we'd love to hear just very briefly your security risk existing preparedness and response, and then really tell us about your good practice and local solution. Ready?
Yep.
All right.
So the one that I've chosen is for the terrorist attacks, because there's been quite a few in London recently, and obviously we're working quite close to London. And so I've chosen for the local solution, we've got a major incident bag in the ambulances. So that's just a bag full of stuff that we will need if there's a multi-casualty incident. And I've chosen this as the local solution because I think they've got it everywhere in the UK, or in most ambulance services in the UK, but not in not in everywhere internationally. So because we've got it in the UK, I thought it would be quite a good thing because it's quite a simple and small thing that's relatively inexpensive, but makes a big difference, I think, when you're turning up to a multi-casualty event, because we've often got completely the opposite problem to the gentleman in Americas, because we've got really, really long run times to incidents like this, especially in Southeast Coast Ambulance Service. We often spend half an hour driving to a job rather than getting there before the police. So normally the police are there, but obviously they don't have in England the capabilities to do any triaging or anything like that. So we have to do all of that when we get there. So having this bag, rather than having to carry around so many bags, is quite a good local solution for us. I think it started after the 7/7 bombings in London, I think, but obviously it's been developed a bit more recently. Yeah.
Okay, yep. Let's see if there are any questions. Please raise your hand or just type your question into the chat, or just let me know you'd prefer to speak. Any questions for Lily? And again, okay, question for Frederick. And again, what you'll be doing next week is you may end up looking at this project, and you'll have to give Lily some, a rating for part 3, and then you'll have to explain that rating. All right, let's hear from Fred. Let me see. So Romeo asks, how and what protocol do your organization use when there is some kind of terror attack and multiple casualties? Lily, can you give a quick answer to that one?
Yeah, so we've got for triaging patients, or just for everything to do with it?
Do you want to type your, I think Romeo is having some audio issues,
Oh,
so
okay.
do you want to type, no.
Okay, so for triaging patients, we use the sort of priority 1, 2, or 3 patient, or if the patient's deceased, we use that. But yeah, so P1, P2, P3, and P0, like Aaron said there. But we've also got like a really long document issued by the ambulance service that I work for if there's a major incident, and for all of the protocols we should follow. But it's about 45 pages long, so it's not very easy to read all of that.
Okay. Romeo reports he's having choppy audio, but he's trying to catch up. All right, Fred. Yeah, comments or questions for what's your feedback for Lily?
Hi, Lily. Thank you for your presentation. It was more of a question, really. I was wondering if you could extrapolate a little bit on the types of security risks that your local solution is mitigating. Like, how does that kit or bag, like, what different types of risks could that mitigate? Like, either perceived risks or risks that you know of as more or less serious. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So obviously for any for like what was in London with the bomb sort of incident, but there's also they're used for CBRN incidents, so chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear incidents. So they've got some things to help with that sort of incident as well. Yeah.
Okay, so there's like anti-contamination stuff in there. Like, what are the other kind of objects that are in there, just to help us understand a bit more?
Yeah, so it's stuff to help us set up decontamination areas and things like that. But it's also got mainly like triaging tag tools, and I think there's a couple of drugs in there, but it's different depending on which NHS trust you work for.
Okay, thank you.
But it's not actually public knowledge, so we're not allowed to say everything that's in the bag just for safety issues. But you can buy them online, different ones with different things in.
We're not going to tell anyone either.
All right, thanks, Fred. So let's go. Thank you, Lily. Look forward to seeing you submit your project by Friday. If you feel it's already complete, you may submit ahead of time. That is an option, but we do want to give you know, we do want to give you week 2 to really finalize, you know, improve and make it as good as it can be,
Yeah,
knowing that your colleagues will be looking at it. And one of the things to keep in mind is this going to make sense to someone who's not familiar with your context, with your country? You know, make sure you include enough information so that someone who doesn't know anything about ambulance services in the UK can make sense of what you're describing and explaining. So that's something to keep in mind because of the global nature of the course.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you, Lily. And let's go to Salah. So Salah, I have unmuted you. You presented last week, and so welcome back. Yes, let's. Do you feel comfortable sharing your with me, showing your creative project? All right, so let me do that. And there are really, so people have put in a lot of effort into, you know, developing really well-rounded projects. I do also want to say, if you're struggling with a specific part, you know, if you're, for example, part 3, you know, what you're submitting by Friday is a draft. So for some people, I don't think this is the case for Salah, but for some people, if you're really struggling, then you may want to submit, you know, the first 2 parts and say, you know, I'm struggling with part 3. And then your colleagues, your reviewers, they may have ideas for local solutions and good practices. That is preferable to not submitting at all, because if you do not submit at all, you will not get to participate in peer review at all, which is, you know, basically one of the most interesting parts of the course. So with that said, then this is not at all applicable to Salah, who's got obviously a very well-developed project. Let me start the timer. You know the rules, and we'd love to hear about your local solution. We just need a, you know, the headlines for parts 1 and 2, and then really focus on what you've got for part 3.
Okay, thank you. Basically, since as soon as the violence broke out in Damascus, there were some standard operating procedures as good practice developed by the headquarters. Like the first aid coordinator created a schedule to cover shifts 24/7. All volunteers were forced to dress in a uniform, red uniform that is distinguished from all others. We had few stickers and flags and logos on all ambulances. We had operation room that is well equipped with radio, monitors, internet, everything. So whenever the radio operator receives the news about injuries, whether it's from TV, from calls, from internet, they start connecting all authorities and de facto authorities. What I mean by authorities, including Army, Riot Control Police, Fire Brigade, Traffic Police, etc. While the de facto authorities means the people who are empowered to make decisions on the ground, whomever they are, be it mosque imams, religious leaders, or any armed group on ground. Now, this was the standard operating procedures as good practice, but yet we still faced some difficulties, like there was lack of reliable news resources. Sometimes it's impossible to know who is in charge on the ground, who is the de facto authorities. So what we created as local solution is that we had detailed database about all volunteers, each one where they live and where they are from originally. So if we hear that there is an emergency in area X, we call our volunteer who lives there or who is originally from there, ask around what's going on, ask your family, your friends, your neighbors, and who's in charge. Let's talk to them and try to guarantee the safer access for our ambulances, because it's not always clear who will be the leader on the ground. Sometimes we get the green light from the government and we arrive there and we have armed group that no one knew about, and they will target our ambulances. So this was our local practice that we developed as an initiative.
Okay, thank you, Salah. So we've got about a minute left for the session, so please raise your hand or type, even better, type your comments or questions for Salah. So Peter has his hand raised. If it was to present, we're out of time, but look forward to your presentation next week. But if you've got a question for Salah, I've unmuted you so that you can ask it and we can then wrap up the session. And I say wrap up, but you are, so if you need to go now, you are free to leave. You have completed your, yes, mandatory participation in the weekly group discussion. But if you'd like to see me walk through, answer any questions you have about Creator, about Scholar, about the assignments, if you'd like to see me walk through the steps that you're going to be going through with peer review, then stick around. We'll be taking in the next, the next 10-15 minutes, maybe more, to go through this stuff. And Romeo says, because he said audio problems, I need to wait for the recording to understand it. Clearly, again, my network sucks at this time. Sorry about that, Romeo. And yes, we do make the recordings available in the Scholar community. So that is it for this week. I don't see any questions for you, Salah, but thank you for that presentation. All
okay,
right.
Thank you.
Great. So again, if you feel, if you'd like to see what's going to happen next in the course, I'm going to be, I'm going to keep sharing my screen. Okay, Fred, comment from Fred. Thanks, Salah, excellent. And Peter says, thanks for seeing me. Well, of course. So here we go. So let's start with what is happening in the community. And so I ran through some of this before the session. You're free to join. We open up the session 30 minutes before the top of the hour, and we do that. There's been some very interesting discussions, just kind of chit chat with some of you to learn more about each other, to just have a sort of informal social time before the session starts. And now this is the technical support following the session. As you can see, there is, so I'm going to go to the activity stream. And you can see, okay, there's somebody who's joining in week 2 the community. So just as a reminder, this is one of the useful tips and tricks that's really basic to just keeping up with a course in Scholar is this thing. You need to go to updates to see the updates, and then to see only the updates that are coming from the course team, so that you can clearly identify what you need to be doing next. So you want to filter updates and then select from the admins. And I've repeated this in every session, but I think it's really fundamental. It's not intuitive, but that's the way it is. And then you want to add a bookmark. You want to bookmark this because this is how you can see exactly what you need to do next. So there are 2 videos that I put up, hoping to give you a sense that we really care about how you're doing. And yes, so do watch those. If and here you can see in any of the updates there is a recap of everything you need to have done before you get to this one. So for example, the day 5 week 1 update recaps the 4 things you need to have done before getting to this one. So if you're catching up, if you haven't done your day 1 update, well, you click here and you can view the instructions. Yes. So this is how we make it easy to actually catch up. So if I'm really starting from scratch, starting with my day 1 update, then here, here is then the update that describes what I need to do going back to day 1. So that's what's happening in the community, but as you've seen in week 2, really the focus is on what is happening in Creator. So let's go look at that now. And so yeah, so what will be happening on Saturday, once you've submitted your work, you will be receiving new notifications. The notifications will appear here, and you will see one that says you've been invited to peer review. In fact, you will see 3 notifications like that, because you will have 3 works submitted by your colleagues to review. So you need to accept each notification, and then when you accept it, you will be dropped into Creator. Only this time, instead of seeing your own work, you will be looking at somebody else's work. And so one of the first things you need to figure out is how to go from, how to navigate between these different works. How do you find your own work again, because you will be working on it again in week 4, and how do you go back between the 3 works that you've been assigned. So there's a couple of ways. You can always go back to the notifications, and there you'll find the links to go to the specific works that you're reviewing, or you can go into this Works tab, and here you can see all of the works you've got going. One of them will be yours, and the others will be the works that you've been assigned to review. So what do you need to do with each work? So this is, we're now talking about what you will be doing starting on Saturday and officially on Monday during peer review. So the first thing you have to do with each work is to read it. And we mean read it because you're going to have to think about it, and your task is to help your colleague improve their work and tell them how they can strengthen it and make it better. And share your experience and expertise and insights and ideas and your local solutions, your good practices, and compare them with with what's been identified and described in the project. So if I were reviewing this, this is a bit unfair because John told us he'd be finishing it, but as you can see, there's only a part 1. All right, so here's how I do the review. I read it, I think about it, then I go and read for part 1 for each part. I will read, so has John, I won't know it's John, but has the author followed the instructions? Has he selected a security risk they have faced in service or security risk that may be exposed to? Is it realistic? So the examples of the, is it a good example of a security risk? And then I can, thinking about his work, when and where does it or could it take place? Did John answer that question? Who are the protagonists involved? So and I can go back and look, has he identified, okay, it's the active gangs and so on. So the first thing you want to do is read, think about it, and then you can go to review work. So on part 1, say, I then look at the ratings and I have to make a decision, a judgment, an evaluation, and it's not a grade because you're a colleague, you're supporting this author, you're trying to help them improve, and which they will get to do in week 4 of the course. So here you decide, well, do I want to give if there's no security risk, and we've seen some projects where people haven't been paying attention, so the best thing I can do to help them is to give a 0 here. And that's not a negative judgment, but please identify a security risk from what you have. And what matters is not the rating you give, but it's the actual explanation. From what I can see in your project, a good a risk that you face is related to MCI. Here are some suggestions from my own experience. And then you would want to add whatever those suggestions may be. Look at the assignments. So the assignment suggested examples for security risks, or if someone has talked about sort of accidents and accidental risk, you would say you would formulate, sorry, but you have selected an accidental risk. This assignment is about security risks. Yes, so this would be sort of an extreme case for somebody who's just sort of missed a point. There are very few of you like that. So if I give that's if I give a 0. If I give a 1, the security risk is identified, but there's insufficient information to explain it. So this stuff about the gang, the membership seems to be pretty comprehensive. So obviously this project would not be a 1, but if it leaves you so there's a security risk. Somebody says they're concerned with being shot at, but there's no information about what the context is for that, who the protagonists are, basically where these questions, the questions to consider are not being answered. So that would be a 1. Now, if the security risk is partially explained, but you still can't make sense of it, it's like you need to ask a lot more questions, get a lot more answers about the context, about exactly what's going on to make sense of it, then that would be that would be what you would say in your explanation. So you could assign a 2, but then you say I still cannot make sense of your security risk. Can you please tell me, who are the protagonists? When does this security risk, when is it likely to take place? Is this something that you are likely to face? Yes, whatever the questions may be. And again, you need to think about how to explain the rating that you give. And explaining means sharing your experience, giving advice, giving suggestions, giving examples. What's not useful, is something like this. So if you do need to get at least 2 words in there, but telling somebody that they've done a good job is nice. It's polite in a way, but it's not going to help them figure out how to make it better in week 4. So things like good job or bad job, or this needs improvement. Those kinds of comments, that kind of feedback, that's very general and abstract, whether it's people trying to be nice or just the opposite, is just not useful. It's not useful to the person doing the review. You're not actually, sort of explaining what you mean, and it's pretty useless, to the author. So in some cases, we see people give 4s, and so say this is excellent security risk description. Okay, so that may be the case. Even if that is, so if it is excellent and you find it to be really, an impressive summary, you still need to provide some explanation. So that's the real job is. And you may want to imagine, you've got your colleague in front of you, even though they may be halfway around the world. What do you tell them? How do you help them? What do you share from your experience? Do you have any stories about the security risk that you faced? How is it different from your context? What are the questions you have for this person? That's what we want to get at in the explanations. And then at the end, make sure you assign ratings and add explanations. You need to submit your peer review. All right. So now let me show you from last year's project what completed peer review looks like, because at the end of the 3rd week you need to have submitted all 3 of your peer reviews. And in fact, so this is last year's exercise. So I'm just looking at the publisher part. If any of you have clicked there, you'll see that you do not have access. This is only for the course team. So let me let's look at a case study of one of last year's projects. Whoops. So as I say, what is anonymous about the peer review is that you will only see reviewer 1, reviewer 2, reviewer 3. All right, so this is a case study from last year. This person did a fairly comprehensive job in terms of how much they wrote, but how did they actually do? So at the end of week 3, what you will get, you will receive your peer reviews and you will submit your own. And so each person will then be able to go back into Creator, look at their own project, and you'll see 2 things. One is a summary. So this was a different assignment. It was about an incident description, but the principle is the same. You can see the overall ratings that you will be able to see the overall ratings that you got, and then you'll see here. I can see the names because I'm a administrator, you'll see reviewer 1, reviewer 2, reviewer 3. And so if I go to the individual reviews, here is just what this reviewer said about the general information, the first part of that exercise. So this is different. It's not the same exercise. So here, for part 1, this reviewer gave the author a 4 out of 4. And then this is how they explained it. The information presented as context and background allows a feasible and objective analysis. Clear the security context. Mentally, I've managed to generate a map of the location and complications in the short and medium term. So this is useful feedback. It says it explains what's good about this. Now let's look at something. If there's an item, so okay, so this person got very high marks, but what you'll find is that one reviewer may give you a 4 and say, they were able to really get your security risk or your analysis or your good practice. Another person's going to give you a 2. And what's interesting there in the thinking work that you have to do, you have to reconcile, you have to make sense of why, how can one person give me a 2 and the other give me a 4? Who's right, who's wrong? You have to make those judgments, because the purpose of receiving these reviews is to help you then go back to your project and start editing it again to address the issues that have been highlighted by the reviewers, to incorporate their suggestions where you find them useful. You're still responsible for it. They're not telling you what to do. They're giving you their feedback. And your responsibility in week 4 of the course will be to use this feedback to actually go back and revise and finalize your work. So even if you think your work is excellent, in fact, here, for the incident description, the other reviewers gave 3s and 4s. And here's one reviewer who gave a 2. So let's see, so you have to, you'll say, why did I get a 2 here? The text could be shortened and more focused on the incident. There's general information that should have been dedicated to the incident description. And so there's a suggestion about basically the structure of the project, of moving different parts around. So, as the author, I receive this. I have to decide. I can say no. I think my work is fine. Yes, or my reviewer missed a point. Or I can say, oh, that's actually a really good suggestion. Let me make that. Let me make those changes in my project for my final version. And here again, here's a reviewer who, instead of giving a 4, is good at giving feedback. Says thank you for the lessons you learned from the story, but the analysis is not clear. There's a lot of information. The suggestion is to shorten it and be more focused. And then review advice from week 2 videos and notifications. So that's just so those are those tend to be useful comments. In some cases, just like in the real world, you'll ask for feedback and you'll get some completely crazy stuff. Yes, it's your job to say, no, this person didn't do their job properly. And you can just ignore it. But in most cases, just remember, every one of your reviewers has also been working just like you have. Yes, so that tends to level things out, and we haven't, in most cases, yes, you get so many, having somebody from halfway across the world or next door review your work tends to really let you see like what things that you missed, things that are obvious to you because you're inside of them, and that from the outside actually require explanation. Sharing, you may have identified what you thought was a good practice, but then somebody in the review might say, well, this practice would not work at all in our context. You may want to consider the specificity of the context, that actually, for this to work, you really need to have this set of circumstances, or this kind of ambulance organization, or be in this kind of community, because we also want you to be thinking about, okay, it's a good practice in my context, but what is it about my context that makes it good? All right. So we've got about 10 minutes left. I hope you're all still with me. I see, yes, and again, this is completely optional. Many of you may not feel the need for this, feel that you're on top of things with Creator, but we also know that many of you have been expressing the need for assistance. So any questions, comments, and if any of you have specific issues with Creator, and with completing your project. So whether that's the process or the actual assignments addressing one or more parts, please feel free to raise your hand or type your comment in the chat window. And welcome to Gilgamesh, who says, finally I get access to the group. Hello to everyone. Welcome, Gilgamesh, and glad that you were able to join us this time. All right, so could you tell me if you type in the chat window, is this helpful to you? And would love to hear from, let's see, all right, so let's hear from Mohammed. Mohammed, can you can you hear me? And can you tell me, is what I've just walked through with respect to Creator and what's going to happen in weeks 3 and 4 of the course, is this helpful to you? Hello, Mohammed. Yes, Mohammed, can you hear me? And if so, could you let me know if there's a if there's anything that you did that you learned through the walkthrough I just ran through. All right. So I do ask that if you participate in the discussion group, that you pay sufficient attention so that you're able to respond if you are called upon. Irene, you are one. You participated in last year's exercise. You're now leading a group of ambulance workers from your hometown of Kisumu in Kenya. Is there anything that you picked up that's new or that you didn't know with respect to what I just walked you through in the process of Creator for weeks 3 and 4? What's coming up? All right, let's go. Let's go to Aaron. And Aaron, I believe you're connecting from either Singapore or Hong Kong. Is that correct? Are you able to hear me? You'll need to unmute yourself. All right. Okay. Yeah. So is it Singapore or Hong Kong? Okay. Can't speak. All right. That happens. Okay. Yeah, it is Singapore. Yeah. All right. Okay. So if there are no further questions, look forward to seeing your Creator projects come in. If you've got any questions, if you need support, if you need help, then just let me know. We are going to, and then if you think that you're going to be late with your Creator project, please get in touch with us as soon as you possibly can. All right. So that's it. I'm going to stop the recording and unmute everyone so that you may speak and do what human beings do, which is say goodbye when at the end of an event. Thank you for staying through this through this entire session. Yes, Aaron. Yeah, it's gone from bad to worse this afternoon. My cough, so I'm going to be hopefully taking good care of myself tonight. Thanks for that. And look forward to seeing you, seeing your projects come in. Hope you have a good week and have been enjoying the work in Creator. And look forward to seeing you complete your peer reviews. All right.